For today's 10-minute review, we have a really cool piece by Aslan, an acting piece for a change, and I think it has a lot of potential and needs a little tweak in order to actually get it to be awesome. So, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so how's it going, guys? My name is Harvey Newman. For those that are new to this channel, I like to share my passion for animation here in this channel. And here in these 10-minute reviews, we actually review work from up-and-coming animators that are shared in my Discord server. Go and check it out if you haven't, link down below. And this is definitely a piece that was submitted in our channel Animation Feedback by Aslan. Really cool animation, by the way, Aslan. And also awesome name, reminds me of Chronicles of Narnia, really cool. And I have to apologize for my voice. I'm feeling a little bit sick because I just came from an event in Poland and yeah, things are tough today. But I'm powering through. I'm here with you guys, trying to give you guys this content every week, all week. So let's get to it. Let me just set up a timer, 10 minutes on the clock. All right, cool. So Aslan, cool piece as I mentioned before. I'm just gonna go ahead and play it a few times so people can see what you have done.
Believe me, there's no honor among thieves. Except for us. Believe me, there's no honor among thieves. Except for us.
So really cool piece. I really like what you've done here. Looks really awesome. Now, I know somebody has already commented on some of the mouth shapes and facial animations that you should add to this. I couldn't agree more with them. The explosions, even timing of your mouth, and mouth shapes are incredibly crucial for you to actually say certain sentences, especially the plosives. And then there's a few moments,
Believe me, there's no honor among thieves.
especially with thieves. I think you can definitely kind of like bring a little bit of that tongue out. Thieves, right? It's very difficult to say thieves without taking your tongue out. Thieves. No, I cannot do it. So you have to actually bring your tongue out in order to say thieves, and you have to showcase it at least for like a couple of frames. And because he says it for so long, he goes thieves. So even more reason for you to say it. I think the mouth shapes are good though in general. You just need to push them a little bit more. So having said all that, I'm going to comment on the animation in general, because I think there's a few things that you can actually do better. I think at the moment there's certain things that you are not doing that can add to your animation. So I'm going to start for the big ones, and then I'm going to go dial it down to the smaller ones.
Believe me, there's no honor among thieves.
So when he actually says believe me, this like hand here actually looks quite nice, because he has a cup and he's not really pointing with the finger. He's just basically like kind of like gesturing towards the guy. Really nice. I do think that this hand here, even though you're doing a good job of actually just moving it very little, at some point, and I'm just going to mute the audio, at some point you actually see the hand getting stuck in the same position, and he also doesn't move whatsoever, right? And when he actually drags the hand back like this, it feels weird that he's basically going from this to then this, right? So normally you have a moment of change in the hand as you go from here to then here, right? There's a little bit of something that happens as you are doing it, or if you actually just like translating in a linear fashion your hands, then make sure that it goes really fast or then it goes really slow, right? But you want to add a little bit of anticipation slightly to the fingers as you make the movement, and then you also want to hit that pose and then go slightly go past that pose. And passing that pose doesn't mean you have to go like this. You can actually hit that pose and then just have the hand tilt slightly on the wrist to make sure that there's no sense of hitting a wall. At the moment, that hand feels very much like it's hitting the wall. And something that I would like you to try, see if that works, is instead of having this hand like this all the time, because he spends a lot of the time like this, maybe when the hand goes from here to here, maybe try to kind of like open the hand and drag the hand down and just relax it in this kind of pose, like right in this kind of pose on the table. Because at the moment, the change that you have from here to then having it close is much bigger then having from here to then sliding your hand with a straight hand and then going back to settle, right? So I hope that makes sense, but try it out, see how that feels. But most importantly, it doesn't matter how you go about it and what you decide to do, make sure that that hand doesn't stick to that wall, right? I feel like you get it. I feel like you can do it because this hand is actually quite nice, and there's no sense of sticking to the hand. So I feel like you may be focusing on the hand that is moving the most, and then you're going to do another pass later on the hand that is basically on the counter. But they are both important, and I think also, like, you know, not to kind of like focus on the stuff that is not polished, but in a way we kind of have to. Having more of a sense of physicality helps you. So what I like to do myself whenever I'm doing any animation is to make sure that you feel, the character has a feel for the texture, for the surface that it's in. So in this case, because you don't actually drag your fingers through the surface, it doesn't feel like the character is having a feel for the surface. It's very much like the character is like trying to get away from that surface, and there's nothing interesting to it. But if you keep that hand open, right, and let's say this is the counter right here, and there's like a little bit of an edge, then instead of actually stopping that hand right at the edge, try to kind of like get that hand to go over the edge like this, right? Because just adding that little bit of a difference between this and this allows you to kind of have much more of a physicality to the whole animation. It's almost like it's grabbing an object instead of just sliding over an object, and that helps you a lot to have a more grounded animation, right? So that's really cool. Now the other big thing, and probably the biggest thing that you have, is the shift from like this pose to this pose. Now I keep saying in these reviews, and I feel like this is a mistake that a lot of animators do. Humans are lazy. We do the absolute minimum effort, if we can do it, when saying anything at all. Now, going from, like, here's my hand, going from here to then going like this, it's a lot of effort to go from here to here, right? So I think that if you want to make this move, make sure that if you're here, like, you can just like lift up your hand like this and just go me and you and bring that hand back. You don't have to all the way bring it here to say me and you and then go back to here, right? It feels like too much of an effort, right? So it kind of stands out because of it. So if he's already comfortable and he has his elbow as a hinge to the hand, like if I were to say it, and I'm sorry you don't see my hand, but you probably be so comfortable that you don't want to take this hand from here. You just go me and you and then put the hand down instead of just going all the way here, me and you, and then put your hand down. So maximum will be like this, me and you, and then put your hand down, or maybe even lower, right? Maybe even here, me and you, and put the hand down. I think you need to actually make sure that that actually reads a little less intrusive, because at the moment it looks quite big. And if you do that, I think it's going to be fine. Now, this hand shape here, when he goes right there, this hand shape needs to change. It feels kind of odd because everything is kind of super even though you're trying to break out the even, but the fingers still feel even like this. And the hand is dead square to the camera, which makes it makes it difficult to read the silhouette of the hand. So I think you need to do two things. First, you need to get that hand to look a bit more asymmetric. So normally if I'm actually were to do this movement, like, believe me, you can start to see that my two fingers here are like higher than these two fingers though, right there, right? And then this thumb is pretty much doing nothing. Like, he's not like this at all because this is too much effort. It's actually like this, and then I'm just moving these hands like this, right? But you can tell that my hands are actually moving asymmetrically as they go through. I'm never doing this. I'm actually struggling to do it because my fingers don't want to do it. So this is basically why you don't want to do things like this, because it looks very mechanical. You want to make sure that you have the overlap of the fingers as you do that hand. So you need to make sure that that hand reads a bit better. Now, I really like what you've done here in this hand. Looks really cool, but I think you're missing a beat. So whenever you go ahead and say the line, yeah, exactly. When you say of course, so you are really good at kind of like making the beat read, right? So for example, when you say believe me, that's one beat. Thieves is another beat, and you got it right. Nice. Now, that of course is the one beat that is missing, right? So I think you need to make sure that the animation hits a little bit more when it goes to of course, right? And then just hit that pose and then go back to the drinking, right? So I like the pause before he drinks. This is really cool. And when you do this, of course, you can also use the fingers to emphasize the movement, the line as you do it. Now, even bigger than that, the gun coming through. You probably haven't polished the gun whatsoever, because it feels very much like you just leave it there for a while and then you take it off. Now, how the way the gun goes into the frame and comes out of the frame is super important. And there's a few things that you need to do composition-wise in order to really make this more entertaining. So the way you actually get that gun to go in, the speed at which you get that gun to come in, it's actually pretty good. I like it. Now, obviously, I think you know that you need to remove that bounce because it feels very much like you just hit a wall and then it just stays there. If a person is holding it, obviously you get to that point and then you come out, right? There's no hitting the wall. You just go past that point, overshoot, and then go back to the point. Ah. Okay, let me just finish this. So I finished. The 10 minutes are done. But yeah, so you kind of do that movement, come back, and then stay steady. But while he's talking, you need to get that impression that the gun, like the person holding the gun, is breathing, right? Don't make it too much. It can be just a tiny bit, like this, right? But it needs to actually feel like it's actually, you know, the person behind it is alive. He's not a robot. And then in the end, when you take the gun out, is a perfect time for you to take that gun slowly out. And there's a connection here that is being lost because he is looking at him. And all this time here, except for us, of course, I think when he says of course, you can start kind of like getting that gun out slowly from the frame to make sure that he actually then, when he looks back at him towards the end, is very much like a confirmation that the gun is no longer there. So I think the gun stays up on the screen for too long, right? Because the other guy already understood that he's trying to kind of like sweeten them up. So at this point here, around 155 or so, you can take that gun out slowly to make sure that the slowness of it all is basically of like, I thought so, and then just takes it off. And that's it. I went over time because this piece is actually a lot of fun, Aslan, so awesome work. Really, really cool stuff. I love to geek out about this stuff, but 10 minutes are up and this is all I have. Now, for all the ones or everybody that is looking at this and wants to have their animation reviewed, make sure to join my Discord server. Make sure that you actually add your animation to Animation Feedback, the Animation Feedback channel, and then myself and other experienced animators will look at your work and give you feedback and give you some tips on how to actually get things better, because there's nothing more frustrating than getting stuck in your animations and not knowing exactly where you need to go next. So this is why I created the server. This is why this animation feedback is so crucial. Now, this is also just 10 minutes because it's supposed to be a preview of what you can get on my animation mentorship. So if you actually go to animation.harveynewman.com, you actually get to see my mentorship. I have different options over there. So if that's of interest to you, make sure you check it out. And that's all I had for you guys. Thanks to my Patreons for checking me out and supporting me every single month. See you guys on the next one. And until then, stay well, stay safe. Peace.